Hello, everyone. My name is Lakash Mikhail, joining from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I will be your host today. I am a trustee of Farm Africa, an organization that, as its name suggests, works on agriculture and agriculture initiatives in Africa, including Ethiopia, where I come from. I don't see actually all the participants, but I'm confident we have a good turnout, and I would like to start by welcoming everyone here. I really am delighted that you are all here with us at this event that highlights women entrepreneurship and its challenges in Africa ahead of the International MSME Day on June 27th. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Farm Africa and the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women for organizing the webinar, and more importantly, for the great work that you do on the ground. That everybody will get a chance to hear a bit about today. I would encourage everybody to visit their websites, or better still, follow them on social media, or even better, if you can get involved, this would be great. The links to the websites will be shared at the end of the webinar. But before continuing, some housekeeping. Firstly, I do want to point out that, as you have heard from the taped message, the webinar is being recorded. The recording will be shared with you later, and it will give you a chance to refer back to the webinar, especially if you experience any technical problems and get disconnected at any time. Secondly, we are taking questions for the panel today. We welcome all of your questions, but please use the Q&A function on Zoom rather than the chat box to submit your questions, so that we do not miss any of them, which is something we really do not want to do. You are welcome to submit questions at any point during the webinar. We will try to answer as many questions as we can in the time available, but apologies in advance if we do get to the end without answering all questions, as we do have a time constraint. Finally, we all know that technology is great, and to date has brought us together from various parts of the world, but it is not perfect. So if we experience any difficulty with picture quality or sound from our speakers, please be patient with us, and we will try to rectify this as soon as possible. We do have a team working in the background to address these kind of issues. Now back to the webinar. I think we can all agree that women's empowerment is critical, not just from a justice point of view, but also from economic development and household welfare. But addressing this challenge, this is a challenge. And through this webinar, we want to share some of our experiences in doing so. We have 4 speakers for you today, and we'll start with a presentation by Sian Hawkins, who joins us from London, UK, and is the Director of External Affairs at the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women. She will set the context with a presentation that provides a brief overview of the foundation's work and outlines key issues faced by women entrepreneurs in Africa. Following Sian's presentation, we have 3 panelists who will share how they have tried to address some of the issues highlighted by Sian. Our panelists are first Lilian Mwamdanga. She joins us from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and is the program specialist and head of women's economic empowerment for UN Women in Tanzania. Our second panelist is Beatrice Muliahela, who joins us also from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and is the Tanzania program manager at Farm Africa. And last, but by no means least, we have Ejuru Jakba joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. She is the founder and CEO of the Knickknacks Company, a business that manufactures healthy, nutritious foods and snacks. So these are our speakers today. Without further ado, I pass the floor to Sian.
Great, thank you, Lakash, for that introduction, and really fantastic to be here today and to have partnered with our friends at Farm Africa on this event as we look ahead to the UN's MSME Day later on this week. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to briefly introduce you to the work of the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women, if you're not so familiar with what we do. Since 2008, the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women has supported more than 175,000 women entrepreneurs across low and middle income countries. And we specifically work with that group of women. So women who are starting, who are growing, who are trying to sustain their businesses. And we're particularly proud that last year in 2020, we were able to support nearly 25,000 women throughout the COVID-19 pandemic to help keep their businesses going through an incredibly difficult time. As you can see from the map on the screen, we do have quite a global input into the work that we do, but we have a very strong and particularly a very strong track record of working in sub-Saharan Africa, and this continues to be a priority area for the Foundation's work. At the moment, we're delivering in-country programs in Nigeria, South Africa and Kenya in sub-Saharan Africa, but also in Mexico, Vietnam, Indonesia, and later on in this year in Guyana. And as well as our in-country programs that we deliver with partner organizations on the ground, we also run our global mentoring women in business programs. So we could be working with women entrepreneurs from dozens of low and middle income countries at any particular point in time. Women working in agriculture also make up quite a significant amount of the women that we work with at the Foundation. So for example, of the women who are using our Venture Business Skills Learning app, in Nigeria, 17% of the women using that app are working in agriculture or the agricultural industry, and 1 in 10 of our app users in Kenya. Next slide, please. So just a bit about women entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa and some of our experiences. We know that the African continent is reported to have the highest proportion of entrepreneurs in the world, and actually a quarter of the adult women population in sub-Saharan Africa is engaged in some kind of entrepreneurship. And in fact, sub-Saharan Africa is the only region where there are more women, or where women are more likely than men to be entrepreneurs, and more than 60% of women in sub-Saharan Africa are actually working in the agricultural industry. But there are huge gender disparities in agricultural production between men and women. And in fact, over the last year, we've seen that the gender gap in economic participation widening across sub-Saharan Africa. But despite this gender disparity, everyone really stands to benefit from the success of women entrepreneurs working within the agricultural industry. Not just from a gender justice point of view, but also from the benefits that these women will provide for the wider communities at the economic and social level. And women entrepreneurs working in the agricultural field are incredibly important agents of social change. Next slide, please. Yet there are really significant barriers for women working in agriculture. We know that around the world, there are major inequalities in land ownership, and there is a huge gender gap in the land rights agenda. Men are much more likely to inherit, to own, and to manage land. And this has a really significant knock-on impact, which means that men are also more likely to be able to get loans if they have land to use as collateral for equipment and other farming essentials and inputs like pesticides and fertilizers. The few women that do own land are much more likely to have smaller, less fertile plots and fewer means of development, which means that in terms of their business success, they are much more limited, which perpetuates these myths and stereotypes and assumptions that we hear all the time at the Foundation, that women aren't good with money. Women can't run businesses as successfully as men. Women also face really significant challenges in finding, using and supervising male agricultural labour. And from a very practical point of view, lots of agricultural equipment is designed for men. It's a heavy lift. So it's very difficult if women are unable to hire labour or use equipment themselves for them to have as effective means of doing their farming work. There's some disadvantages women have in farming practices actually really significantly reduces their final food production by about 20 to 30%. And obviously then in terms of selling produce, there are other major considerations and barriers. And we know that all over the world, food contractors and buyers are much more likely to give contracts to male farmers. Next slide, please. And we know at the foundation there are a multitude of additional gendered barriers to women's business success over and above the ones that are specific to women working in agriculture. So, for example, we know that women across the board, across the world, are 14% less likely to have access to a mobile phone than men. We know that access to finance is a massive issue for women. In fact, it is the #1 issue that women at the foundation, working with the foundation, raised to us. And there are significant gender stereotypes that women have to battle through that come from business acquaintances, friends and family, co-workers, and the media, of course. Next slide, please. So it would be remiss of us to not really mention the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in fact, we know that even before the pandemic struck in 2020, economic participation across the world for women was diminishing. At the end of 2021, the foundation conducted our second big annual audit review of women entrepreneurs' experiences across the world. And although this was a review of women entrepreneurs in any low and middle income country, in their feedback, actually 60% of respondents were from sub-Saharan Africa and about 10% were from the agricultural industry. So whilst the results are broader than just this group, it's very relevant to the discussion we're having here today. And in fact, 1 in 10 women entrepreneurs reported that the COVID pandemic was the single greatest challenge that they had faced. And this is really significant considering the other challenges that we know women entrepreneurs are facing in their day-to-day operations. Next slide, please. And we asked women what aspects of their operations were most affected by the pandemic. And actually, access to customers and market was the #1 challenge that women entrepreneurs raised to us. And obviously, this is really significant in terms of the women are working within the agricultural industry. Next slide, please. We asked women what the impact would be of their business closings. 4 in 10 women told us that their business may have to close as a result of the pandemic. And you can see here this chart, some really, really staggering impacts that the pandemic would have and business closure would have on women. So women struggling to support themselves, their families, affording basic necessities. So more important than ever that women can keep their businesses running through this time. Next slide, please. So just some final very quick thoughts from me around what needs to change. Well, I think it's clear that we need more than ever to really recognise the power of women entrepreneurs. There is no greater time than as we still struggle to deal with the impact of the pandemic and are grappling to keep control, that we are able to unlock the potential of women entrepreneurs across the world. We know there are enormous barriers in terms of women's access to finance, huge inequalities in how women entrepreneurs can set up and start and run businesses, because of the legal frameworks that women are operating within. And underpinning this is a huge lack of gender disaggregated data, which means that we still don't fully understand women entrepreneurs' experiences, their needs, their wants, what's going to make things more equal and easier for them. And that's it from me. Back to you, Likash.
Thank you, Sean, for a very insightful presentation. I won't summarize, and I will go directly to the panelists. We start with Lilian, who will share with us Farm Africa's project on women's empowerment in Tanzania, funded by UN Women. Lilian, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Joining from Tanzania, I'm Lilian Mwamdanga from UN Women, and I'm so excited to really share with you on our project that we're doing with Farm Africa and how it really addresses the challenges that have just been explained. Yeah, so UN Women, we have an intervention in one of the areas in Tanzania. For some who know Tanzania, in the central parts of Tanzania, that is called Singida. And really our partnership with Farm Africa in this specific intervention is to increase women's participation around the sunflower value chain, women's productivity. We are looking at increasing women smallholder farmers' productivity, but also linking them to market. But one of the very important intervention, very pertinent, that we are also addressing in this specific program is issues around land ownership. So in this component, we're working with the district council to address the challenge whereby majority of women do not own land. And we are indeed doing this through sensitizing the community on the possibility for a joint ownership of land at the household level between husband and wife, but also the potential and the possibilities and the benefits actually for women owning land. And this is really doing well. We are really seeing the transformative potential of this intervention. And as I speak, we are seeing it being received very well in terms of households supporting and promoting women's access to land. But also another very key important component within the sunflower value chain that we're doing is really giving farmers information, but also disseminating best practices in terms of good agronomic practices, in terms of what kind of input sets need to be used, use of fertilizers, but also giving them information on the hybrid seeds that farmers can use. And we are seeing, as you can see in the photo over there, there's been a very tremendous difference between what women farmers were earning before and what they're earning. We just started, finished the first season, and really the harvest, what we are expecting is really great. One of the interventions that we are doing in this program is also to support farmers around business planning. One of the key hurdles that we realized is that majority of these women smallholder farmers, due to lack of information, they're just farming for subsistence, but they don't know the potential for them to do collective marketing, preparing business plan. So we are supporting them also to join cooperatives where they can have more voice. In the context of the area that we are, it happens that more women are left out when it comes to cooperatives, agriculture marketing cooperatives. So what we're doing with Farm Africa in this intervention, we are supporting women to join these cooperatives for collective marketing and for harnessing better price, supporting them to come up with business plan as a cooperative so that they also get access to improved markets and better markets. We are not only supporting them to join cooperatives to get market, but also to participate in leadership positions to increase their voices and to air out their concerns. What we are also looking at, the former speaker has also said the issues around access to finance. We realize it has been very difficult for them to get access to finance because they don't own land, but now we are also supporting land ownership. They don't have information in terms of business plan. By doing this, supporting them coming up with a business plan, we're actually making them finance ready. And this is the first season that they're actually in the harvest season, and we're already seeing an increased interest from the financial institution to come and support them now as they start their production in the next season. So really this making them finance ready, preparing the demand side in terms of supporting the women smallholder farmers, we are seeing as a very good approach. But we are also using gender champion, males, to share experiences, especially on the benefits that households can acquire by allowing women farmers to participate in agriculture, but specifically in sunflower value chain, this being an important agriculture produce in the area that's talking about the Singida region in this case. So in a nutshell, this is the holistic set of interventions that UN Women is working with Farm Africa to really support farmers, not only the women farmers, not only to do it at subsistence level, but also to see them participating in commercial agriculture, commercial farming. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lilian. Our next panelist is Beatrice. She will discuss some of our Africa's work focusing on women, also in Tanzania.
Thank you, Lakesh. I know everyone has spoken a lot about Farm Africa. I think I can just touch a little bit of what Farm Africa is and where we are. Farm Africa is an international organization where our mission is to promote sustainable agricultural practices, strengthen markets, and protect the environment as a whole. And in Eastern Africa, we have been here for more than 30 years. And most of our programs focuses more on agriculture, natural resource management, and markets. And we work in Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and DRC. All that we are just improving the community's agricultural expertise so that they can really increase their productivity, protect their local environment, build their links to markets so they can sell their produce to higher prices and increase their income. As what we have shown has mentioned a lot about gender, women empowerment and everything. So a lot has been happening, especially mostly in our projects in Tanzania or in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. As Farm Africa, we put gender equality first and foremost in all the projects that we develop. Before I get into details, I would like to share a short video of how Farm Africa works to help rural women achieve their economic potential and how this impacts their families.
Most households in rural sub-Saharan Africa are engaged in agriculture. Women and girls provide much of the labor on their family's small plots, but have less access to land, finance, agricultural extension services, and technologies than men. Women and girls rarely control the sales of their produce or the income earned by their hard work. For 35 years, Farm Africa has been empowering rural women in Eastern Africa. As specialist local staff constantly evolve our approach to ensuring female farmers have economic opportunities, even during COVID.
So we provide market linkage amongst the farmers. We provide trainings on technical skills, on crop production, and also business skills.
Addressing the balance of power within families make us different. We enable women to earn their own money and contribute equally to household financial decisions.
Even as women, we have power to own our own goals given by the project.
Giving a woman access to finances means empowering her to access the basic needs of the household. That's what Farm Africa strives to do.
Thank you. As you have seen in the video, Farm Africa helps marginalized women to gain access to the support they need to succeed as agricultural entrepreneurs. In our activities, what we do, when we identify all the activities we have the greatest impact on women and build them into the project design. For example, we support female farmers by ensuring that they have access to women-friendly agricultural extension services and technology most appropriate for women. We know it can be hard for women, especially to spend long times away from their families. So we promote growing vegetables in their backyard, for example, home gardens, and beekeeping, because nowadays beekeeping, you can do them, you can just have an apiary just back of their houses. Those are the activities that can be done close to their homes. We also carefully monitor and measure how our projects change women's life, reflecting on the lessons into implementation and learning lessons. And as most of the time also we seek new partnership. As Lilian has mentioned, we normally look for partners who really are keen on gender. So we are taking most of these technical specialists such as UN Women who are supporting females, like the project that Lilian has mentioned in Singida, the Sunflower Farmers Project. And another sector that has grown, especially in Tanzania, is horticulture, where high profit margins and demand for processed fruits and vegetable products present opportunities for women-owned enterprises to thrive. At the moment, we have a project which is called DECIDE, and it stands for Delivering Expertise, Capacity, and Investment to Developing Enterprises, where we are working with 30 SMEs who are working in the horticultural sector, which they produce different products such as spices, wines, juices, and vegetables. So when we select all these 30 SMEs, it was odd because we had like 100 SMEs which we were given from different sources, all those companies. When an interesting fact that stood out, like during the assessment, almost majority of the horticultural MSMEs were owned by women, majority of them. And on these 30 SMEs that we are working with, 60% are owned by women, and 34, they're also women who are youth, which shows women are good at startups, and they are really persistent in developing their business, even when they are overwhelmed by their household tasks. One of the SME that we are supporting at the moment is Caroline. You can see her on the picture. Caroline, she's a young mother who set up a business. Her business is called Kef Fresh Company. She started this business in 2019 because she felt like she's doing nothing and that would give her income rather than just staying home. So she just decided to, okay, let me just open a business. So she started a business making fresh juice. In the beginning, she treated the business as a hobby and something just to buy time. But after being introduced to this project, she was really mentored, coached on how to be more business savvy. And now her business has grown. She received training actually on business skills, safety standards, market linkages, and now she has been able to even increase her customer base through the introduction of new products that were unavailable before. So as well as fruits, fruit juices, Caroline now also sells fresh salads, smoothies, mocktails, and fruit puffs because she feels like she really wanted to expand herself because she has seen the market and now she loves the business. She's now bringing in a high level profit, actually. She can even support the family and money which she will be able to use to support her household. So she has that equal distribution with the husband. So this is something which has been so successful, and as Farm Africa, we've seen something which is a bit unique, especially when it comes to horticulture and the women that we involved with. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. And now for our final speaker, Ejiro, who will talk about her own experiences as a woman entrepreneur. Ejiro, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lakech. Hello, everyone. My name is Ejiro, and I'm speaking to you today from Lagos, Nigeria. So my business started about 6 years ago. I might add accidentally. Basically, I had a health challenge which required me to adopt a healthier relationship with my body. So I needed to lose about 20 kilograms in weight. And I thought, okay, this should be relatively easy to do. So I, got a pair of trainers and I decided to hit the road, as most people do. And well, I didn't realize that you need training to learn how to run. So my first attempt at running, I barely taken a couple of steps and I ended up on the floor. My ankle was broken. Anyway, fast forward 3 weeks down the line, I still hadn't lost weight. I was putting on more weight. I then decided to attempt to try and start exercising, doing physio. In the process of doing physio and exercise, guess what? I broke my second ankle. So that's 2 ankles and no physical activity for me. But the health challenge still loomed. So I then, looked back and I thought to myself, there must be another way to lose weight without exercise now. And that was when I decided to adopt a healthy relationship with food. So I'm CEO founder of the Knickknacks Company. We're manufacturers of healthy foods and snacks, which includes granola, that's an oat-based cereal. And more recently, we've also started doing peanut butter as well as oats. flavored oatmeal. So like I said, this business is 6 years old. And when I started in my pantry, there was no plan whatsoever for it to turn into a business. I decided then, after loads of trials, giving it out to friends, family, I was encouraged to sell it. And I thought, okay, how would I go about doing this? And that was when, one of the first challenges of an entrepreneur, as well as a female entrepreneur in Nigeria, started. So I decided that I would start selling the product. And I realized I needed finances. I didn't have any money to make this into a proper business. So I reached out to friends and family. I actually had a friend and a husband who invested a couple €1,000 into the business. And that took us from, just a home kitchen, selling granola in Ziploc bags to selling it in, like nice plastic containers with labels. And so fast forward 2 years down the line, I'm thinking, well, I had a vision, and the vision was to have the granola in paper packaging, just like it is behind me. But how am I going to do that if I still kept on operating from home? Then the major challenge of accessing finance started. I tried to go into the bank. Of course, the bank would not give me any money, short of asking me for my great-grandmother's birth certificate. It was so difficult to access any form of financing. Why? Because number one, I didn't have proper track records. I didn't have a factory. I didn't understand numbers. And I thought, well, there must be another way to access funds. So what I then started doing that period was to start looking out for programs such as the Cherie Blair Road to Growth Foundation program, which has landed me here anyway. But I started looking out for programs which were educated specifically African women on how to run your business, on understanding your numbers, your business plans, things like that. So I then started applying for programs, specifically programs that had a prize attached to it. So I entered the first one, I believe it was in 2018. And that had a first prize of about $2,500. Now, forearmed with the knowledge that I had previously, I was able to speak to the judges, give them explain to them my passion and my vision for the product, that I may not be where I need to be now. But however, if I won this prize money, this is the next level it will take me to. So I won that one in 2018. I searched for another one. I applied for another one in 2019. I also won the first prize. That was also about $2,000. And then last year, even during the recession, I actually applied for 2 programs. One of them, I won the first prize. And the second of them, I won the 4th prize for it. So what it did for me was at every point in time, when I get to a new milestone, I was able to get funding to do the next thing. So I needed for me to be in the shops, I needed funding to get approved by the government to, as a certified food processing company. I needed to get the proper packaging to make the product more attractive. So I needed to get equipment also to speed up the process. I needed to get a bigger place. So all the challenges that I was experiencing, I found a way out of it by, you could say, innovating on how I found money, which was, going out and looking for pitches or competitions that I could enter, as well as programs where I could get trained and educated. So the business then was started with equivalent of $50. And today we have sold at least 20,000 packs. I remember when we first started, our target was to sell 12 jars of granola every month. Today, we've sold over 20,000 across Nigeria. We are still growing. I started with 1 staff. I have 7 staff now that is currently being employed. We're in over 60 stores across Nigeria. We also do bulk manufacturing as well. And, we're gradually overcoming all our hurdles. What I would like to conclude with is that, and that was also a lesson to me, you don't necessarily need tons of money to start a business. You have an idea with whatever you have in your hand, $10, $50, you can start. However, you need knowledge to take it to the next level. And then eventually you need then the money comes in, because you know how to manage with the little. So when the big comes in, you then know how to go about scaling that business, which is what I've learned in the last 6 years. So now, I'm in a position where I can speak to someone for $100,000 or $200,000 to get me to the next level of where I want to get with my business. And I would also like to use the opportunity to speak to policymakers, so that they could find new innovative ways of setting, legal and legal structures, and just, tweaking things a bit so it's more comfortable for African women to access finances, not necessarily based on if they have land or not, but also based on the potential of the business. And of course, speaking of land, just like Beatrice also mentioned, to make it easier for women to have collateral, because that's what a lot of these banks want from you. They want you to have collateral so that they can lend you money. And yeah, thank you very much to the Cherie Blair Foundation once more, because with the knowledge I got from them, I'm able to understand my numbers, I'm able to defend my product, I'm able to go out there confidently now to a bank to speak about my business and speak about my traction, and also tell them where I'm going to go to in the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jero. I would like to thank all speakers, Sean for setting the scene, and the panelists for sharing their rich experiences. We do have a few questions, so I'll go right ahead. We'll go right ahead and try to answer them. The first question is from Vitalis Mome, and they would like to know why Farm Africa and the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women have not invested heavily on policy projects and work with governments in sub-Saharan Africa to ensure that it is constitutional and mandatory for every woman to own land at the family level. This will enable sub-Saharan African women in agriculture sector to increase their production income and promote entrepreneurship among women. So there has been, I think both Lilian and Beatrice have talked a little bit about land. Maybe if you could explore this issue a little bit further. But before I pass it on to first Beatrice and then Lilian, I would like to say that it is really not the position of Farm Africa or the foundation to try to change the constitutions of a country. But having said that, Beatrice, could you say a little bit more on Farm Africa and land?
Yes, thank you very much, Lakeshia. You said it all, but I think Lilian will speak a little bit more because she has been involved more in women and especially on land rights. But still, as Farm Africa, we have tried our level best, not only on the part of agricultural side, but on the part of natural resource management to support especially women to be involved in land rights. Because at the end of the day, if we are working in the villages, if you have these, they're called a certificate of customary rights of occupants. You include women, actually a wife, a husband, and children. So that helps even to advocate, especially to allow the women and the children to be involved in having the land rights in their homes. So as Farm Africa, we have done part of that, but on the current point of really changing the constitution and the policy, it really takes, actually it is a progress to really change that. But at least step by step, you can have those kind of information and support those families to understand who owns a land and who has the right to even own a land.
Yes, just to build on that, and from UN Women's experience on land matters, So for instance, in Tanzania, the land laws and all the frameworks provides an opportunity for both women and men to own land. And even recently, there is a provision also allowing for joint land ownership. But what has been the challenge, the law also allows the customary laws also to dictate. And as has been explained in countries, most of the developing countries and in Africa, what really inhibits women access to resources is the traditional norms and customs. So even though the laws provide for them to have access to land, but you really need to work through in the community as part of enhancing women's access to land. You really need to deep dive, work with the community, traditional leaders, using a lot of channels to really change this male-dominated mindset. And we are seeing that it actually works. I just gave an example on where we're working in a particular district around the central part of Tanzania. The issue is really evolving. When we started initially, you could see the kind of questions that the community would ask and how they receive. But then with NMR sensitization, attending to issues, we are really seeing that the attitudes are changing. So most of these countries, actually, the laws provides for that. But maybe women are not informed, and especially rural women themselves, but also these customary regulatory laws and all that. But indeed, it's a very good idea for the governments to take this, even if not at constitutional level, but in various legal frameworks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll go to the second question. It's from Charlene Muthuri. I think Charlene has actually submitted 3 questions. And I will, sorry, I'm having a bit of a challenge with Zoom. So her first question is how is Cherie Blair Foundation and Farm Africa working with local governments in the various countries, particularly in Africa, to empower more women entrepreneurs? The second question, I think it has to do with climate change. Yes. How has climate change impacted entrepreneurship, especially in the agriculture sector across East Africa? And how is Farm Africa, alongside Cherie Blair Foundation, looking to address this or help rural women address this? And she adds, great discussion, ladies. And her last question is, how does Farm Africa empower rural women to incorporate mechanization in their farms in order to achieve optimal yields? The questions are directed to Farm Africa and the Cherie Blair Foundation. So I will give Sean a chance to respond, and then following Sean, Beatrice, if you could come in on Farm Africa.
Great, thank you, Lekach. So on those questions, I think it's something we're increasingly looking at the foundation is what we can do as an organisation, working with our local partner organisations and the thousands of incredible women entrepreneurs that we work with, women like Ejiro, who have got so much of a stake in changing the ecosystems around women entrepreneurs, at looking at what our role can be as an organisation to support that. And what we know from the women who take part in our programs is that they gain so much in terms of skills, training, knowledge, and feel incredibly motivated to take their businesses to the next level. And they come out of our training, they come out of our programs, but nothing in the world around them has changed. So those systemic structural barriers that they're facing haven't changed. So we are looking increasingly at what are some of these major issues that women entrepreneurs are grappling with at that kind of structural level. And we actually ask women entrepreneurs through our annual research that we published back in March what the big issues are that they are facing, what are the key challenges, and the things that come up again and again that we then as an organisation focus on are around access to finance, as Ajiro mentioned in her presentation, is a huge barrier. Legal rights and the ability to access legal rights, and actually discriminatory legislation that's still in place which inhibits women entrepreneurs work. So we know that in 115 economies around the world, for example, women and men can't set up and run businesses in the same way, and women are being discriminated against through policy and through legislation. We know gender stereotypes is a massive issue for women entrepreneurs that they're dealing with every day, that stops them from being able to follow their dreams to become an entrepreneur. It stops them from being able to access finance. It stops them from being able to access markets and customers in the same way as men. So huge challenges there. And we have introduced a new strand of work at the organisation into our programme, in-country programmes, where we are supporting women entrepreneurs around influencing and leadership skills, so that through this new strand of work, we can support women to identify what some of these issues are that are maybe challenging their business from their external environment, and think about ways that they, together as a collective group and with local organisations who are, on the ground, who are working in that local context, can potentially start to challenge some of those issues. But that would very much depend on what they're working on from a from a local context and from place to place. But that's just a bit about some of the things that we're doing at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I can go also on the part of the way we work with local government, especially in empowering the more women entrepreneurs. As from Africa, we have a very good relationship with the local government, especially when you look, we work with any region that we work with. We have to make sure that we introduce ourselves into those local governments, and they are supporting us, especially in the extension services and training, all these activities that our SMEs, they really need, even our women entrepreneurs. So this is something which has been very good, especially in our success in Tanzania or even in other countries. So when we talk about really empowering more women, it has been easy for us to really look at the way how our women can be engaged, especially from the local government side, to even look at all the expertise from the women from the government. So it's also something which we have managed to really advocate on that. And like, for example, up to now, it's been very difficult for most of the women to really have record keeping, because it has been said, like, when you're talking about financing women to be really business savvy, it has been difficult for them to have all these financial records. But in our part, and all the compliance side, on our part, we've been able to train these women to make sure that to understand their cash flow, they're good at startups, but at the end of the day, when it comes to having all these tax issues, all the financial flows and everything, it becomes very difficult for them to really come and sell it out. So we have managed to really connect them with the local government, some of the local government, especially local agencies, so that they can really support them to understand how can they really get into the sector, how can they really get into the business. So that is something which, as from Africa, we've been able to support. And on the part of the third question, I know Charlene was asking on the part of mechanization. I know, as from Africa, it depends. Like what I've mentioned on my slides, we are looking at the way to put the technology which is easier for women. I know mechanization, it's broader. It depends on which type of mechanization that we want to really introduce to the farmers. So for the women, we really are trying to look at those technological friendly that can be able for a woman to really do them in such a way you don't really compromise their health, or you don't compromise their way of doing their activities. So those are the things that as from Africa, we've been so keen to understand and to really implement them in the ground. Have we answered all the answers?
There was a question on climate change and helping women, I guess, to adapt to climate change. I know from Farm Africa, climate action is central to Farm Africa's strategy. So everything, all interventions mainstream climate adaptation and climate mitigation, and we have, of course, a very strong program on natural resource management. Just to add, there is a question from an anonymous an anonymous question from an anonymous attendee, and that is what the policy is on GMOs, or genetic modified foods. From Farm Africa's side, I'll attempt to answer this. This is a policy question. Across all countries that Farm Africa works in, national governments have actually not authorized the commercial production of GMOs as food crops. And Farm Africa works within the parameters of the national government's legislature on GMO usage. And it's also a fact that Farm Africa is not engaged in any GMO trials and does not supply GMO products or seed to any of the farmers that we work with. Perhaps, Sean, you can provide a few words on the foundation's position on this.
This isn't something that is within our area of expertise, really, because we obviously work with women entrepreneurs across all different industries and all different worlds of work. So I think we don't have a detailed position on very specific elements of different industry sectors, but really great to hear from Farm Africa's side what your position on that is.
Okay, the next question, very quickly, Beatrice, where is Fresh Juice located?
It's in Arusha. It's a very beautiful region in Arusha.
Okay, so we have another question from an anonymous attendee. Do you think with a female president, and I guess this is to Beatrice and Lilian, do you think with a female president that now is the time to address land rights in Tanzania? I think I've jumped, but I'll go back to the earlier question.
Yes, maybe I can take that first. Yes, with the female president, we are really seeing that gender, we will be moving at a very good pace on the gender equality move. I don't know if most participants are aware of the Generation Equality Forum, which UN Women is actually advocating and inviting countries to commit. There are 6 areas in Tanzania with our president. She has actually chosen area around economic justice and rights. And even within the economic justice and rights itself, she has committed to 4 areas, and one critical area is access to productive resources, including land. So just to say yes to the question, it's very promising here in Tanzania at this particular time to all the actors that are advocating for gender equality and access to productive resources, particularly land. Yeah.
Beatrice, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having a problem reading some of the questions. We have a question from Alexander Wedner, who from bringing a corporate perspective, as how do you see the role of big-scale agribusiness in women empowerment in agriculture? How could we support the missions and address the challenges? Do you have any experience with working with big businesses? I'm passionate about the cause and have the willingness to collaborate. So I open this up widely to any panelists or speaker who would like to have a say. Okay, shall we start with Sian? Any thoughts?
Yeah, great, thank you. Yes, the Cherie Blair Foundation has a long and strong track record of working with big businesses to deliver programs and partnering different areas of work and different areas of the world. So certainly open to conversations with any potential partners. We're always willing, and up for discussions around how we can deliver our programs to more women in more geographies. In terms of what big agribusiness can do, I think there's a huge amount that can be done, particularly from the work that we're doing at the foundation and tackling some of the barriers that we see around supporting women to access markets. So there are huge supply chain gaps. We know there are huge gender disparities in how female-led business, women-led businesses can access supply chains of big corporates and big companies, which can be a real a major source of income for them, obviously. So there's a lot of work that can be done in that space. And also, big businesses have a role to play in trying to tackle and break down some of the gender stereotypes that we know women entrepreneurs are facing. And there's a role that they can have in boosting the profile of women within their supply chains that they're working with, women in their workforces, women in leadership, to help bolster the position of women more generally and try to tackle some of the negative and really pervasive gender stereotypes that we know women entrepreneurs are facing. So that's just a few initial thoughts, but yeah, absolutely open to conversations around partnership to deliver our work more wisely.
Beatrice, any additional thoughts from Farm Africa side?
So actually, for us, for Farm Africa side, we have been working more with smallholder farmers. For the bigger agricultural farmers, we haven't touched on that. But I think on us at the moment, as a strategy, which we are really planning to really look at the private sector, especially for the big businesses. That means we can really include them into most of our activities in order for us to really look at especially when you're talking about the market strength, when the market value chain, when you're talking about the off-takers, if the bigger agricultural businesses, if they work with smallholder farmers, it will help us to really to balance the value chain and understand how the market works.
And Lilian, any thoughts from UN Women's side?
Yes. So for UN Women, we are also working with the large-scale farmers and entrepreneurs, because we're also looking at them to support on advocacy. They have more voice also through their engagement with farmers on the ground. And most of them, they really play a good role on advocating for the rights of other women, working closely also with women rights organizations. And a couple of them also are very helpful to have specific programs that would support smallholder farmers with information on how to really practice farming, and also supporting them in terms of absorbing the markets, the produce as off-takers. So this is a very good opportunity as well to use them as advocates, but also at large in the whole value chain. And yes, we do that. Yeah.
Thank you. We have a set of questions from Jibril Azonzi from Benin, I think. And I think they're directed to Sian. It's really whether it's possible to partner with you to increase your approach in other countries in Africa to help women to build a high network to finance their own businesses and to bring your foundation for him or for them to benefit from your experiences. Sian.
Yeah, very happy to have a conversation. Please do get in touch. I think our details should be on the sign up, but do have a look at the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women website and get in touch. We'd be more than happy to have an initial conversation.
Then we have Burhanu from Ethiopia, who that's quite a similar question, and I guess it's for both the foundation and for Farm Africa. He wants to propose an interesting project to implement in the Gumuz region of Ethiopia, which is to the west of the country. The Gumuz women are the only agricultural workers in their culture. So the men do not really engage in agriculture. So could you help him by providing funding and working together and working with him? So I'll ask perhaps Beatrice and Sian to say a few words on how you would consider new projects if there's a process towards that. Beatrice, since you're unmuted, and then I'll go to Sian.
Okay, is this the? Yeah, in case we have any new project, especially in any country, I think it would be good for us to get in touch with that person and to understand the background of everything that those, for example, if a group or any women group that they have and the challenges that they're facing, and then we can really make a design of it and see how we can work through it. And since as Farm Africa, we are in Ethiopia, I think it would be good to really build a conversation with this kind of people and to understand that patch of it.
Not much more to add from me. Similar to the answer to my last question, more than happy to have initial conversations with anyone interested in potentially partnering or collaborating with us. Please do get in touch.
Sorry. I think this is all the time we have. We have passed actually the end. I have been negligent in my timekeeping. So I'm afraid we've really run out of time. And apologies if we've missed. Apologies that actually we have missed some questions. I'd like to thank again our panelists and everyone working hard in the background to make this event a success. I do think we did have a very rich and interesting discussion. Thanks for everybody for watching, for joining us, and see you next time. So goodbye. I guess this is time to say goodbye. Bye.